the myth, the hero of legend, the hero who rightfully deserves this title, following the hero's downfall timeline. It's up to Legend to make his Hyrule right. This is our 4th entry in this adventure through the Zelda's timeline. The hero of Legend is our 2nd combined hero, so we have 6 games for us to talk about. Listing them off in order, there is A Link to the Past, Oracle of Ages, and Oracle of Seasons, followed by Link's Awakening, then Link Between Worlds, and lastly Triforce Heroes. There's also a manga for almost all of these, and well, we're only going to talk about it if it is relevant. Also, I'm slightly glad that the 3rd Oracle game was never made, because holy crap, Legend, chill! Now, before we start talking about the games, let's reiterate what we are doing here. We are going over how JoJo had characterized Legend in their comic, Linked Universe, a comic series that follows 9 links answering the question, what would happen if all the links had to adventure together? I'll be going over every link in the comic, and you can catch episode 0 where I explain what we are doing here in the description below. I'll also add the next episode when that is done down below as well. Also, before I forget, I'll be making a follow-up video at the end of all of this, just talking about the chain altogether, as well as adding in anything that I missed, or something interesting somebody pointed out in the comments. But until then, I hope you enjoy these videos. Let's get into this. Now, for the longest part of this, hopefully until we get into personality, let's get into the games that make up the Hero of Legend's adventures. Starting with his first adventure, A Link to the Past. In this adventure, Link is awoken in the middle of the night by Zelda, pleading for help. Link lives with his uncle, who sees the boy awaken. He tells him not to leave the house, then leaves telling Link that he'll be back soon. But not listening to his uncle, Link takes the Red Lantern and goes off to save Zelda, only to find out his uncle had been attacked, dying in front of Link, saying very strange lines that a lot of people may think suggests that Link and Zelda are related. We're putting a footnote into this little section for later, but for now, Link goes off and saves Zelda, taking her to the sanctuary. By this point, Zelda has explained that the evil sorcerer Aghanim had been kidnapping girls who are descendants of the sages to unlock the seal to Ganon. So Link must obtain the Blade of Evil's Bane, the Master Sword, to stop him. Link goes off on his journey to obtain the pendants, and soon gets his hands on the sword. But he is too late. Aghanim had found and captured Zelda. The old man at the sanctuary had been murdered as well. Link then goes to confront the sorcerer, only to be sent to the Dark World, which in the Dark World he must save the 7 maidens and Zelda. Also, one of Link's friends also dies during this time. After saving all of the maidens and Zelda, Link can finally confront Aghanim, or better known as Ganon. Gosh darn it! Anyways. Afterwards, because of Link's pure heart, he is able to wish upon the Triforce and bring everybody back to life, which marks the end of this game. But wait! If you played the Game Boy version and had beaten 4 Swords as well on the same save file, there is a secret dungeon called the Palace of the 4 Swords, where Link can face a dark version of the Hero 4 and kill him. Moving on! The next 2 games are connected games, being Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons. Now, there was originally plans to be a 3rd game in the Oracle series, but the Oracle of Secrets will keep true to her name. Starting with the Oracle of Seasons, Link has been traveling Hyrule to train, but he finds himself whisked away via the Triforce for a quest. He finds himself in Holodrum and needs to protect the Oracle of Seasons, Din, from the General of Darkness, Onyx. During this time, he learns that Din was disguised as a dancer while protecting the land, as well as Impa secretly joining to help Link. But Onyx attacked the traveling troupe, knocking Link out and kidnapping Din. Impa found him and awoken Link. Being given a quest from the Maku tree, he soon obtains the Rod of Seasons, and with the power to change the seasons, Link was able to get the Maku tree nut, which led him into Onyx's castle, leading Link to confront Onyx and save Din. He also learned that Onyx was from the Dark World and had been summoned by the witch's twin Rova. In the end, Link and Impa had to leave to go and help the Oracle of Ages, Nehru, from the Sorceress of Shadows, Vurin. Nehru also has a childhood friend named Ralph, trying to protect her as well. He would do almost anything to keep her safe, even make a time paradox by killing his own ancestor. But through the game, Link is able to defeat Vurin and save Nehru, only for Twin Rova to come around, kidnap Zelda, and bring Ganon. Gosh darn it, Ganon, go away! He came back to life. Link defeats him for a second time. But long story short, Link is able to save everyone, and he leaves on a boat for his next adventure. Speaking of Link's next adventure, it's Link's Awakening! Leaving his newfound friends and going out to sea, Link finds himself in a storm, where his boat was struck by lightning. He wakes up on a beach with a girl looking over him. This is Marin. Link soon meets the rest of the town, and they are all so kind and nice to him. But as time goes on, Link finds the instruments to wake the Windfish. Waking said Windfish is the only way for Link to leave the island, and while doing so, Link learns that everything he saw here was a dream. None of it was real. The fifth game we have here is Link Between Worlds. Link now lives alone. Link, where did your uncle go? Anyways, Link now lives alone with his friend Gully coming in to wake him up for work that day. He now works as a blacksmith's apprentice. That day, the captain of the knights had forgotten his sword, leaving Link to go and bring it back to him. Going to said sanctuary, something isn't right. Link must break in to the sanctuary through the sewers. But when he gets in there, he runs into Yuga, who turns the priest's daughter, Ceres, into a painting. Link soon gets knocked out, only to be saved by a stranger in a purple rabbit suit named Ravio, and his bird friend, Shiro. Link lets the stranger stay in his house, and for doing so, he gives Link a gift, a strange-smelling bracelet. We learn later on that the bracelet gives Link the ability to turn into a painting on any wall, able to move about and pass through from the light to the dark world with ease. During this time, Yuga kidnaps the sage's descendants, and Link must free each one of them to be able to face Yuga. Hilda, the princess of Lorule, and Zelda's Dark World counterpart, actually teams up with Yuga to try and steal the Triforce from Hyrule to save their own fallen kingdom. But Yuga had other plans. After you beat the game the first time, you unlock the Hero's difficulty. Going in it, you can actually find Ravio's journal, and learning that Ravio figured out his evil plan. Unable to do anything himself, he leaves to try and find a Link, so he could save Lorule and Hilda. Yuga had planned to revive Ganon once more, to try and steal the Triforce for himself. And gosh darn it, Ganon does in fact come back. After defeating Yuga and Ganon, we are left with Hilda, only for Ravio to show up last minute and calm everything down, explaining everything. He didn't want to see Hyrule fall for Lorule's success, so he left and betrayed his own kingdom to help it. Afterwards, Hilda sees the error of her ways and sends Link and Zelda home, where they wish upon the Triforce to grant Lorule their own version of it, an upside-down Triforce, ending the game. Also, Ravio is Link's Dark World counterpart. And lastly, the final game the Hero of Legend shows up in, Triforce Heroes. Link heads to the kingdom of Hytopia. There he learns of the princess's situation of being cursed to have no style. This game is all around a joy of dress-up and chaos with friends, and in the end being along the lines of defeating the lady and lifting Princess Styla's curse, so she can be stylish once more. It's just a simple defeat the witch and lifted the curse. No Ganon plot this time. Nice. And that concludes our game recap. Holy crap, that was long. From here on out, we will be referring to Link as Legend, because that is his hero title. Legend's design in-game is his classic green tunic, no pants, only skirts, brown boots, and what we dub as the Downfall hat, which is the normal green hat Link wears but with a yellow stripe on it. Throughout Legend's game, however, he can obtain different tunics with different levels of defense. There is the blue tunic with the yellow hat and the red tunic with the purple or blue hat. Also, Legend has, of course, his legendary pink hair, but not in the rest of the games. Now in JoJo's design, Legend is wearing his red tunic with a blue hat. He also has the Pegasus boots equipped, and also wears multiple rings and medallions as well as his bracelet Ravio gifted him. His hair also has pink tips, and when Legend gets turned into a rabbit, he gets his pink hair back. But it is slowly fading. In one art piece JoJo had drawn, it's Legend in his green tunic along with Marin, still with the pink tips and looking happy. JoJo does an amazing job at combining all of the old designs and creating a design fit for a hero of Legend. Fighting style. Let's start off with what we've seen Legend use. First off, he has the fully leveled up Master Sword from A Link to the Past, as well as being seen using the Mirror Shield. We also see he has the Fire Rod as well as the Ice Rod. He also has the Pegasus boots to get to places faster, and the fact that he's not wearing heavy armor means that he has nothing slowing him down. Something else that we see Legend has is the bracelet Ravio has given him, but we haven't seen him use it yet, so we can't really talk about his painting abilities yet. We've also seen him use the hookshot in battle, and lastly we've seen him use the bow quite often. In the comic, we see Legend's fighting style is mostly shown as support for the others. In the first battle shown, he is in fact in the back using his bow. In all the battles until Twilight gets attacked while they are on patrol together, he is in the back, playing support. If someone needs help, he will step in, but most of the time he is watching like a hawk. Comparing Legend's fighting style from Linked Universe to his games, he uses wide open swings, sometimes using his Pegasus boots to get around faster, or by using a wider range of tools to overwhelm his enemies. Something else to point out is that Legend is very observant of his surroundings. During The Shadow, he is one of the 3 heroes chosen to hang back and watch everyone else's back, playing support once more. As well as in The Threatening Shadows Part 1, Legend is the only one to notice the ringing sound. In Part 3, we see that Legend and Time talk to each other in the background. We don't see any dialogue, but it could be about the ringing sound. We don't see anything about said ringing until later on in Shady Escape Part 1, where Hyrule and Time hear it right before the attack. Legend is observant, but doesn't tend to act upon it until necessary. Magic effects. The hero of Legend uses many magical items throughout his journeys. Along the lines of the Rod of Seasons, the Harp of Ages, we do not see the impact of their effects just yet. We also don't quite know the effects of the Windfish's dream had been, but we will touch more upon that in Secrets. As well as the bracelet Ravio gave him, another magic item we haven't seen the effects just yet. Because it can turn him into a painting, maybe it could affect how animated he acts. Someone had pointed out in Four's video that the Four Sword could have amplified his personality. For Legend, the expressions he makes could be a side effect from the magic. Also during the final battle, Link is able to use the light bow in his painting form, so he's not completely defenseless like that. Something we do know had an effect on Legend was the effects of dark magic, and during his time as a rabbit. The pink hair lingers throughout the comic until Legend touches the shadow crystal and gets himself turned into a rabbit. Using the Master Sword to turn back, his hair stays pink, but because of the short time he was transformed, his hair will fade back to its natural color once more. Overall, the hero of Legend uses a lot of magic items, and the effects of said magic items haven't fully been shown yet in the comic. Legend's personality is one of someone who's seen almost everything and knows what is out there, whose hopes have seen their end, and only a few things can truly be something he can connect to that isn't travel. I've made the death count at the beginning for the games to give an idea of how many people he lost, making it clear why someone who had so much hope and joy could have closed himself off to the world. But there is still hope for him to see that light of joy once more, and he has shown this throughout the comic. Let's get into this. Let's start with how Legend sees his equipment, mainly starting with the Master Sword. Throughout the comic, Legend is seen holding the Master Sword the second most, just behind Sky. He has fond memories of her, for she was his only companion throughout his adventures. In Divine Dark Reflection Part 7, we get a hint of the downfall timeline, via Twilight talking about how his Master Sword was left for him in perfect condition, where Legend thinks about how his was found, covered in vines, and in need of repair. Throughout his first adventure, Legend did put the effort into bringing her back to her former glory, but this still clearly shows that the downfall Master Sword will never be at full strength, because she still cannot do what the others could in the other timelines. Also, in Divine Dark Reflection Part 10, when Legend turns back to normal from his rabbit form to his human one, his sword is also glowing. It's golden yellow, next to the Master Sword's shimmering blue. Talking about other equipment, in Doodles 3, Legend lets warriors use his fire rod, commenting to him just not to break it. Also, in Divine Dark Reflection Part 2, Legend is looking through his items to find something for Wild to use. From these, he doesn't mind letting the others use his things as long as they don't break them, which is probably a good thing that he didn't end up giving Wild something to use then. This also shows that he has a lot of stuff on him at all times. But in the chapters Hoarder of Legend and Ravio, we see the storage of his house and how much he has stored there, being all the items from throughout his adventures. Everyone, of course, touches everything, and Legend doesn't really care for that, showing that as long as he's the one saying it's okay, he doesn't mind. Don't touch his things otherwise. We also see Ravio here, and Legend comments on how he sells overpriced items, showing that he is still salty about Ravio's rental service, but in the end he lets him stay at his house while he's away adventuring. Going into combat ability, Legend is seen with Time, Twilight, and Warriors planning strategies. Legend may have the most experience in combat, travel, and general adventuring. He still steps back and lets the others take over. He knows that he doesn't need to be the one in charge, and he doesn't act like he wants to be. The group already has 3 prominent leaders. It doesn't need any more. Unless if they all leave, then Legend will step up and take command. This happens when Twilight gets injured. All the people who take charge run off to check on Twilight, leaving Legend with Hyrule, for Wind, and Wild. Legend does his best to take command, but the others don't quite listen to him and start to act rashly. They do come around eventually, but still, Legend being able to step back from the leadership role and letting the others do what they need to shows a level of maturity and trust he has with his team. I would also like to point something out. I want to talk more about this in Warrior's analysis because he is shown to be the strategist of the chain. But in Shady Escape, we see that the chain are all walking in a specific marching order, being in smaller groups, each having something between 50 to 100 feet apart. It's a good idea to spread out because they don't want to get surrounded easily. But from what we see, the marching order is Sky with Warriors in the front, then Twilight on Epona. The middle group is Wind, Wild, then 4. The middle back is Legend alone, and lastly, bringing up the rear of the chain is Hyrule and Time. It's really interesting because everyone has a partner to walk with except for Legend. I point this out because it shows that the rest of the chain understands and respects his strength. They know that he can handle himself, and he is also probably the fastest of the chain, showing with his Pegasus boots and how fast he was able to get back to Hyrule in time. I'll talk more about Shady Escape when we get to Warriors video, but until then, I'll leave you with this, and knowing that Legend was walking alone. Something I had noticed while reading through the comic again, looking for Legend moments, is how often he's the one to ask questions. One would think he doesn't need to because he's been everywhere and done everything. But when you learn more, you realize how little you actually know. His questions range from asking about how someone did something to asking things he is curious about to actually important questions. All of these questions normally asked with the ultimate amount of sass. But I find it interesting he is the one who asks questions, because it shows that he is truly interested in the world around him, and he is always wanting to know more about the people he is traveling with, as well as always willing to learn more. Sometimes instead of asking questions, he uses his attitude to get the information out of others instead of asking outright, if he doesn't think they would answer truthfully otherwise. We see this in the Divine Dark Reflection chapters, where Legend learns of Twilight's secret of being the wolf. Instead of outright asking Twilight about his wolf form, he talks about Lorule, commenting about masks and becoming beasts. This startles the others at camp, but he stays calm along with Twilight, even going as far as asking what Twilight would want to be if he was a beast. Twilight answers with ghosts, and Legend doesn't seem impressed. But when Twilight leaves for patrol, Legend jumps at the opportunity to get him alone to talk more. In the end, Twilight was just going to tell Legend, but he was attacked in the process. This scene, other than the one in Shady Escape, is the first time Legend actually goes to a non-support role in a fight, killing the monster and saving Twilight. During that attack, Twilight drops some of his equipment, only after he notices, and by then it's too late. Legend has gone to help clean things up and accidentally picks up the shadow crystal that Twilight uses to turn into his wolf form. Touching it, Legend is transformed into a rabbit. I'm going to take this time and actually dive into his personality in the comic. We did some setup, but we've hit a bit of a wall that needs a little bit more setup. So now let's actually get into the meat and potatoes. Legend is somewhat of a jerk. He comes off as rude to the others, not always watching what he says and running his mouth. He's skeptical and makes backhanded comments to the others. He is realistic to the point of being harsh. He keeps his distance from the others, but at the same time, he shows that that was all an act. An act to keep himself and his emotions safe. The first time we see this mask slip is actually quite early on, in Doodles 2. He stops Wild from killing a seagull because he knows Wind likes them. Another time was in Mitha's journal. Legend finds the journal and starts jokingly reading it. Wild doesn't like it, and when he shows concern, Legend gives it up easily, only asking who it was from. When Wild informs him of his late friend, Legend says he's sorry to hear that. But Wild doesn't really believe him until he reassures him he really is sorry. Something interesting is that others tend to miss these moments of genuine kindness that slips through Legend's mask. The next obvious time we see it slip was when Legend was turned into a rabbit. He starts with his tough guy act only for that to fail, and only after the dread sets in is when he starts to actually panic. During this time, Twilight and Legend are chatting, and Twilight comments on how these beasts' form could be their inner selves, and how he didn't expect Legend to be a rabbit, even suggesting that his grumpy self wasn't really him. Legend responds to this by talking about his travel, and how they may not have been the best for him, clearly thinking about Marin and how losing her is still affecting him. Twilight reassures him of his feelings, and the two set out to find Sky. Something else to point out during this time was how putting a character who is normally strong-willed and confident and taking all that away, what is left? For Legend, he is turned into a helpless rabbit, who cannot defend himself even if he wanted to. He normally doesn't depend on anyone, only depending on his own strength. But during this part, Legend has to depend on Twilight and Sky to help him return to normal. He's rightfully scared of what could happen, but confronts those fears anyways. And when he is able to turn back, he thanks the others and starts to be sincere with them, leaving those defenses down to have a heart-to-heart conversation. Only for Sky to start making fun of his pink hair and for him to close back up, once more blocking them again. Gosh darn it, Sky! The next time Legend truly lets down his defenses is after Twilight's shown to be better. Like the others, when Twilight was first injured, Legend wasn't taking it very well. He had lost so many people and just wanted to make sure he did everything to help his brother. He and Wind even went and tried to find a great fairy, but to no avail. During this time, Legend takes his hat off, and it stays off until Twi is better. He also has a look of utter fear clearly painted across his face. His shoulders are up and tense, and when Twilight is finally better, Legend opens up once more, and Twilight visibly notices. He doesn't take the easy shot at Legend being vulnerable with his emotions, but instead acknowledges him and letting him be open, putting an arm around him. After, Legend stays by Twilight's side. He even put his hat back on, as well as quoting Twilight when trying to comfort the other on his girl problems. And lastly, we still see afterwards he is still cracking his usual comments towards the others, but at this point they seem less harsh, showing growth in his character in the comic so far. Now before you say I'm biased, Legend is the one in the chain who points out things that are wrong. He's the one who voices what everyone is thinking and points things out when no one else wants to. He says what needs to be heard and not what everyone wants to hear. Legend is cynical to the point where everyone sees him in a way he doesn't intend. These slip-ups he has are him showing his true colors, and that rabbit form is still who he really is. Someone who is kind but still has been through so much that he no longer can only show joy in things. He points out the problems, and that isn't a bad thing. As time had passed and how he had traveled throughout his journeys, as well as those he had lost. First his uncle, even though he did come back because of the Triforce, that initial scar is still there. Then going on to Marin, the girl his dreams was truly only a dream. He closed himself off as time went on, and the fact his uncle is no longer there by the time of Link Between Worlds, it looks like he also lost him permanently this time. But there's still hope for him to heal. This adventure so far has had him slowly opening up again. Even back at his home, he still has Zelda, Ravio, and Hilda. They're looking out for him, but the rest of the chain has really gotten him to open up over time. Moving on to how he reacts to others, and his slow growth from being someone who was closed off to everyone to somebody who is starting to open up more. Let's start off at the top of the timeline with Sky. At the start of the comic, Legend would make sly comments to Sky. But as time has gone on, and how Sky had helped him turn back to normal after being turned into a rabbit, he has started to treat him better. For 4, he seems to treat him normally. From reading back, he doesn't talk to him often. When he does, he acts like he normally does with the rest of the chain. But when 4 picks up the Shadow Crystal, he is genuinely concerned, panic clear on his face. Only time will tell what we see when 4 splits in front of Legend, but until then, he hasn't really changed towards him much. To Time, Legend respects the leader. He's able to step back and let Time and warriors take over, not needing to prove himself because they already know his abilities, and the respect goes both ways. With a hero of Hyrule, the two are often seen fighting near each other as well as walking next to each other. But Legend really does care of what he thinks of him, even commenting about him being disappointed at seeing his rabbit form. Now, I'm in the Linked Universe Discord, and in the Discord there's a channel called JoJo's Server Gifts 2023, and in it we see Legend and Hyrule's first meeting. In said meeting, we actually see the other two's thought process. But if you take that out and you just look at it without the thought process, they immediately look at each other and immediately start attacking one another. As soon as they start talking to each other, they figure out it was just a misunderstanding, and from then on, instant friends. I love it. Now Twilight. Legend's relationship with Twilight has changed the most throughout the comic. First starting out with Twilight not caring for Legend's attitude, but he was the first one to notice the slip-ups of Legend's mask. Then after some time and the events of Legend's rabbit form, the two seem to have connected. When Twilight gets injured, Legend's face was one of pure terror. He tried to find any way to help, but in the end he was only left with having to wait. His fears didn't come true though, and when Twilight finally is better, Legend hasn't left his side. He's been with him every chance he's had. Twilight notices Legend's joy of seeing him and lets him open up. Wind being the youngest could help with how Legend sees him. Legend doesn't outwardly comment on Wind's age, but back in Doodles 2, Legend shoots Wild's arrow out of the sky so he doesn't kill the seagulls, so Wind's feelings would be spared. He watches out for the younger hero, but he still doesn't baby him. When in battle, he respects his ability to defend himself and doesn't need to worry about him, unlike the other heroes. He does still make his usual comments towards him, but he doesn't make fun of his age compared to the others. Warriors, on the other hand, the two seem to have some kind of rivalry going on. They both poke fun at each other and tend to make bets with one another. When things get serious, they respect each other's strength, but they still like to make jokes. And lastly is Wild. Legend is aware of Wild breaking everything he touches, but he still is willing to lend him something to use when all of his weapons break. He respects his ability as well, but at the same time Legend does like to joke and make fun of him when he can, like with the Vey clothes or with Mipha's journal. But he still is sincere towards Wild, and he doesn't poke fun at his scars. When things are actually a problem, Legend doesn't make fun of serious topics. One other thing is that these two tend to clash quite often. They have different ideas of adventuring. One uses a map, the other just doesn't. They just don't see eye to eye. Side note, I'm going to start doing these character relations more structured from now on, so oops to the others. That'll be for the final episode where we talk about stuff that I missed. But, long story short, as time has gone on, Legend has slowly opened up to the others. His jokes and comments have become less harsh and more playful, and especially in the most recent chapters. He's just happy to see Twilight being alright. But he knows this peace isn't going to last, and his questions are returning. Everyone has started asking what could be happening next. Too many questions and not enough answers. Secrets. Legend has many secrets. As someone who has been almost everywhere and traveled throughout the land, he has picked up many things, and some of those things are secrets. From a love lost to new friends gained, we will start with the least impactful to the most impactful on how okay and not okay the rest of the chain will be when reacting to these. Good or bad, angry or sad, let's start with the abilities from the Oracle games. In Oracle of Seasons, Link gains the ability to manipulate the seasons. We know he has the rod, but haven't seen him use it. As well as from Oracle of Ages. We have seen the Harp of Ages, but it hasn't yet been used. Two of these items that could be useful with how the enemies have been using dark portals to travel through time. Legend's relationship with Zelda. Now, where did the idea of Link being related to Zelda in the Link to the Past come from? Well, it all started with a comment from Link's uncle before his death. That comment being, Zelda is your blank. Many people have thought that this would have been Zelda is your sister. I and a few of my friends who have read this thought it would have said Zelda is your responsibility. But still, the idea had already been planted. Now, another place this could have come from is from one of the old Zelda mangas. That old manga doesn't actually have an English translation. In the manga, Link is Zelda's half-brother. The queen had an affair and Link was taken in by some relatives. The only problem is with this manga is that it follows the hero of Hyrule instead of the hero of Legend. But still, the ideas were planted and many people ran with it. I bring this up because Legend calls himself a nobody. Being said, we don't know what canon JoJo is exactly going with yet, meaning the hero of Legend could be related to Zelda or he could have just been a simple apple farmer before saving Hyrule. We don't know yet. That's the fun part. These next four are all kind of connected, so we're going to put them all in the same section together. The Dark World being one that only one other member of the chain really knows about, along with his rabbit form. Sky and Twilight both know about it currently, but he wishes to keep that secret from the others. Talking about rabbits, Ravio's true identity. Ravio is Legend's Dark World self. He and Four are the only links to befriend their dark versions of themselves. And Legend didn't even have to fight. Ravio isn't a fighter, he helps. And talking about helping, the bracelet he had given Legend, and his ability to turn into a painting. He himself hasn't used it in the comic so far, but he's wearing it, meaning the ability is already there. I myself cannot wait to see Legend's painting design in Linked Universe, though. The next secret is Marin, as well as the death count that Legend carries with him. Marin, from Link's Awakening, was a girl he had fallen for. The two were happy, but in the end Link had to awaken the Windfish to escape from the dream he was trapped in, finding himself shipwrecked in the process. But the death count continues with his uncle to his friends like Gully, to someone he could have loved like Marin. Legend does gain friends, and Princess Zelda is always there for him, but he has to work through things before he can accept their help. And lastly, Four! At the end of A Link to the Past, you can find the Palace of the Four Sword. It's a secret dungeon only accessible if you beat 4 swords on the same save file as A Link to the Past. Now, what is the Palace of the Four Sword? Well, at the end you discover a dark corrupted hero of 4, and you must defeat him, leading to the idea of legend kills 4 to light. Lovely. Now, I was going to end this off right here and just go on to final thoughts, but there's a little thing that I want to comment on. The thing is that I have no idea where this is coming from. I have searched through a lot of the games at this point. I might have to redo this little section, but Legend's scar on his right arm, I have no idea where this is. If you have any ideas, please tell me, because I'm interested to hear what your guys' thoughts are. Because my thought process is it could be from when he got shipwrecked, but the thing is that it was his left arm holding the thing and not his right arm. But rope burn is a serious thing. Or perhaps it could be from battle, like somebody hitting his shield away, because again, his shield is in his right arm. Or it could be something really silly, like when he ran face first into a wall. No idea, not a clue. Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. The hero of Legend is a fairly complex character. He's been on so many adventures and it shows, and his time traveling may not have been the best for him mentally, but through the comic we see that he truly loves to see the world and find new things. He's the one willing to step into the unknown first, not afraid of what's on the other side alone. Talking about his relationships with the rest of the chain, Legend puts up a front. He protects his own emotions and himself by acting as if he doesn't care, or making sly comments to the others. He doesn't think before he talks, which has him asking the most questions and making the most jokes throughout. He wants to know what's happening around him, and if he sees some way he can improve himself or the others, he will ask or comment about it. When he actually does think before he talks, he is calculated and he is usually looking for some answer he wouldn't get otherwise. To his emotions, Legend is one who wears his heart on his sleeve, but he wants to hide it, worried about what the others would think if they were to see it. Anytime said heart is shown and someone makes fun of it, he closes off once more, going back to his grumpy exterior. But when someone doesn't make fun of it, he stays open to them, showing his true self. Legend keeps those he's with at a distance, not wanting to share his secrets the best he can. But with how much he's starting to connect with the others, we don't know how long that'll take for him to have one of those slip. For a hero who loves adventure and travel, admitting it may not have been the best for him might have been a good thing. Only time will tell how far his character will grow and change, for we are in the middle of this change, and I cannot wait to see how much he grows in the future with all of you. Thank you all for watching. This took too long. I am so glad we are done with Legends video. And next we have Hyrule. I can't wait. And thanks to JoJo for the amazing comic. I have been having a lot of fun making these videos. As usual, if I missed anything, please tell me in the comments below. And I will see you guys all next time for episode 5, as we will be talking about the hero of Hyrule. Until then, bye! For our little secret ending for today, we have the photo from photos of Legend, Wild, and Wind, and each one of them are doing a pose in their games. For Legend, this pose was from Link's Awakening. That is so fun. That's so cool. Alright, that's all I got for you guys for today, and I'll see you guys all next time. Until then, bye!